So when we talk about process costing from where we ended, okay, so we are talking about evaluating, okay, the cost involved in carrying out the production of certain items, okay, within an organization, okay. So we already explained this earlier, and also we've talked about what process costing entails, okay. It is used to cost products in any industry where homogeneous products are made under mass production methods or through a series of production steps called processes. So we've explained all these definition of process costing. Okay, now the industry that use process costing, you can meet them in the oil. This can be the oil products production industry, that is the oil and gas sector, soap manufacturing, chemicals, paper manufacturing, print manufacturing. Can products also involve process cost. Okay, and drinks. Okay, as well as biscuits. Okay, so when it comes to process costing, we're talking about what the production of goods in volumes. Okay, so let's so also when we talk about job costing and process costing, okay, we explained earlier that job costing entails specific order cost. Okay, unlike process costing that is not specific order. Okay, it has to do with what the production of uniform products that are homogeneous, and also the production of these products in volumes. So I won't be taking much of your time because we've already explained all this, okay, earlier. So we're going to look at the key differences between job and process costing has to do with the purpose of the work. Okay, because job costing is all about meeting customer specific orders, okay, based on their specification, okay. And also process costing serves as what as the production of homogeneous products in large quantities, okay. Unlike the job costing that has to do with what just the production of what specific products, okay, to meet up with the demands of a customer. Okay, so also, it also involves the focus of what cost gathering. Okay, now job costing gathers cost by job. Okay, based on the job that is involved. Okay, so it has to do with what the compilation of so many records. Okay, when it comes to job costing, unlike process costing, that has to do with what that has to do with the gathering of cost based on departments. Okay, the departments are what are the basis by which we determine the cost of the products that are being produced. Okay, based on the various elements of cost. Okay, that are used in the production process. Okay, so let us to move forward and also do some questions. Okay, now when we look at process costing, like can see in this diagram here on the screen, now the output of one product, okay, of one process becomes the input to another. As we can see on the diagram here, we have two processes, process A and process B. Now the first process is process A is the first process, okay, and the output equals to what material input for what for process B, because we are transferring this what material input to process B, okay, and process B, the cost of process B is the cost of material, okay, which is equal to the cost of goods that we have transferred, okay, from process A, plus any additional cost that we incur, okay, or any additional material cost that we incur in process B, okay. And this becomes of the finished product, which is the output of department B, is the finished product of the firm, okay. That is the output of department B becomes the finished product of the firm. Now, here we say that the cost measurement problem, the manager of process B must wait until the end of the period before knowing the cost of material used by their department, because before once you complete the process, another process begins. Okay, so you cannot just start your process without waiting for the first process to finish before you can continue with the next process. Okay, so we can see. Let's look at other slides. Okay, so the costs are assigned to the various departments. Okay, these are transferred units transferred are what to the next process or to the finished goods store if production is already completed. Okay, so and also we also have work in process. Okay, there are some units that might not be have been completed or maybe partially completed. Okay, units that have been semi processed but are not yet ready for transfer to the next stage. These units are known as work in process. Okay, we also have work in process, that is the units that have not been completely or completed. Okay, are also no, assigned the different costs. Okay, based on the percentage of completion. Okay, so let us move on. So we also have here why unit cost isn't a simple division. Okay, now assigning total cost to material or conversion cost requires determining the unit cost of production for each category obtaining the necessary unit cost is not as simple as dividing total cost by total units of output. Okay. Now, the complication is that work in process. Okay, semi-processed items or work in process make it difficult to determine the total output for the period simply by counting finished units. Also, work in process at the beginning and end of the period means we must determine what is known as equivalent units of production. Okay, and also it is the equivalent unit of production that is used to divide the cost incurred for the purpose of obtaining cost per unit. Okay. Now, the organization of process costing is towards cost averaging, spread total cost within a department across equivalent units of production for a given period of time, which is usually a month. Okay. So, what do we mean by equivalent units? Okay. So, and we're talking about equivalent units. Okay, we're talking about you know the unit. Okay, that approximately we can determine its production. Okay, based on the necessary data that are available. So, like we can see here in the slide here, now it was assumed that we have three bottles of juice that we bought, okay, at a restaurant, okay. We bought three bottles of juice, okay. So we want to know the equivalent, okay, that is approximately, okay, what we have consumed, okay, for the period, okay. So for bottle one, we bought three bottles of juice, okay. For bottle one, we only drank two-thirds of that bottle. Then we went to the toilet and we didn't return to finish it. Okay. Now, for bottle two, fully emptied, it means that what that we have completely what we have completely consumed one bottle. Okay. But for the first bottle, we still have one third that we have not consumed. Okay. Mean that what we have only consumed two-thirds of that juice. Okay. Now for bottle three, now what the next juice, okay, which is bottle three, we only managed to what to consume one third before deciding to leave the restaurant. Mean that for bottle three, we only consume one third of it and what we left two third of it unconsumed. Okay, so this means that at the end of the day, if we're going to compute what we consumed in total, okay, we have only consumed two-thirds of the first bottle plus one third of the what of the third bottle and plus what one bottle that we have consumed. This will give us two bottles in total that we have consumed out of the three bottle of juice that we bought. Okay. Now this means that what our equivalent unit, okay, of consumption is what is it two complete bottles, even though one equivalent unit is made up of partial amounts from different bottles. Okay. At the end of the day, we bought three bottle of juice, okay, we're only able to what to consume just two bottles, even though we consume some fraction, okay, from those other two bottles, okay. Now, what we're saying that is that one equivalent unit of production maybe the sum of two units that are only partly completed, okay, and also equivalent units express partially completed work in terms of what of fully completed units, and this notion arises because of work in process at the start and end of a period, units not what that are not fully processed. Okay, so I would like us to look at some questions. So I'd like us to look at some questions and then we move on. So we know that process costing entails having to convert some products to finished products. Okay, so it involves various stages. Okay, various steps of what for us to be able to make ensure that what we complete the process. Okay, so let us check out some typical questions. Okay, so here we have this question that states that a firm manufactures product Y, which is processed in two departments A and B. During November 2023, 10,000 units processed in Department A and transferred to Department B. The costs in Department A were as follows. Now, for Department A, we incur material cost, which is 15,000. We also incur labor cost of 12,000 naira, and we also incur factory overhead cost of 3,000 naira. Okay. So in Department B, raw material of 6,000 naira were also used during the month. Okay. You are required to calculate the unit cost of each element of cost and the total unit cost for Department A. Also, calculate the cost of material used in process B. So let us now go ahead and also do some workings. Okay, so we're going to go ahead now and do some calculations. Okay, so we're going to do some calculations. So we're going to do some calculations here. so that we can see how to compute these questions. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the video and see what we can do with some of the questions that we have in this slide. Thank you very much.